It's hard to believe, but the WarioWare franchise is 9 games deep at this point, with the most recent Get It Together released on Switch last year. While you tried to mentally list all of the games in your head just now, I'm guessing only a handful of you remember that Twisted, DIY, and Game & Wario exist. And yes, Game & Wario does count. But I'm guessing none of you remembered that there was a game on DSiWare called WarioWare Snap. Well, with the 3DS eShop shutting down in 2023 and taking DSiWare games with it, I thought this was the perfect time to revisit the forgotten title. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wario could make a lot of money farting into jars and selling them online. And you're right, the game is supposed to be terrible. It's easily the lowest rated game in the franchise on Metacritic, sitting at a 53. But maybe critics and players at the time got it wrong, and it's aged like Ryan Reynolds. Well, the game starts unlike any other WarioWare game. You get a 20-second clip of Wario exclaiming that he's opening an amusement park, then you go directly to the main menu where you choose between 4 options: Wario, Mona, Jimmy, and Cat and Anna. I'll save my issues with the content for later because there's something that takes you out of the game immediately: the camera. If you've ever used a Kinect or an iToy, imagine all the worst experiences you've had with those and multiply it by 1,000. The snapped in the title refers to the fact that the game only works with the 3DS camera. Basically, you are the controller. Except the camera never recognizes anything. You'll constantly be readjusting just to get into the game in the first place, and then when you do get into the game, it's a gong show. Because every microgame requires your face, or your face plus your hands, to be in a different position, you have to reposition between each microgame. If the game worked, Snap would be like every other WarioWare game where you play a 5-second microgame, beat it, and move on immediately to the next. Instead, Snapped has you spending a minute between every 5-second game trying to get yourself recognized by the camera. You've been watching unedited gameplay of me with Snapped this entire time. You tell me if it looks fun, or better yet, tell me if you can even see me in the calibration screen. I'm just a grayish blob most of the time, and lining up with the indicators rarely works. It doesn't really matter what the lighting in the room is like, I always had issues, and when it does work, I've usually just swung my head around until it randomly recognizes me, then the game begins and it doesn't register my movements. Oh, and if you take too long between microgames, the game says sorry bro, and kicks you back to the main menu. In Snap's defense, I will mention that I did manage to get it to work semi-decently by placing the 3DS on the ground and being in the perfect position under a light. When everything did go right, I was able to play about 3 games in a row without interruptions. But then the regular old issues would pop up when I had to reposition my face or put my hand in an awkward position. To truly highlight just how inept the camera is in Snapped, the game said my room was too dark, so I left to turn a light on. While I was gone, the game took a picture of the ceiling thinking it was me and launched me into the games. Naturally, I couldn't actually play the games because I'm not a ceiling. So that's the bad of Snapped. It's basically unplayable due to the horrible detection. But what about the microgames themselves? When they work, are they actually good? And the answer is yes, it's WarioWare. You do stupid things like sticking your fingers up a nose, shaking your head to dry a dog, or tilting your head to pour out some water. Unfortunately, much like when Wario's walking towards you, there's a big but coming. There's only 20 games in the entirety of Snapped. Yes, I paid $5 for 20 microgames that never work properly. Maybe if you compare it to other full-price WarioWare games, the cost per game isn't bad, but the gameplay sure is. Even if every single game in Snapped worked 100% perfectly 100% of the time, you're still paying $5 for 5 minutes worth of content. But even then, there's a drawback. You know how Cat and Anna are 2 people? Well, you need 2 people to play their microgames. That means a quarter of Snapp's content is locked behind a friend paywall. Since the woman I normally pay to spend time with me won't accept checks anymore, I couldn't even access them in the first place. Despite all the issues, something fun that Snap does is show you a montage of yourself after clearing the microgames looking like an idiot. Unfortunately, watching yourself play the game is more fun than actually playing the game. Aside from that, the only other standout in Snapped and the only other piece of gameplay is the credit sequence. Here, you move your head to guide a roller coaster and collect the letters spelling out the names of everyone who worked on the game, all while dodging aliens. Compared to the rest of the game, it works decently enough, though things come in your face way too fast. I never felt like I had enough time to react before the letters were passing me by or an alien was crashing into me and knocking a person back to the ground. I think my main issue with the credits is how long they are. In a game focused on quick bursts of action, the credits took me nearly 3 minutes to complete my first go-round. The second time was just over 2 minutes, but when you're not having fun, it feels like an eternity. There isn't much more to say about WarioWare Snapped. It sucks. It's got next to no content and it deserves to be forgotten. In fact, you should remove this video from your watch history just to prove a point. If you're looking for DSiWare games to buy before the service ends, keep looking. I give WarioWare Snapped 2 fart jars out of 6 bottles of Gamer Girl bathwater.